Hello, hello, my love. Welcome back to the Awakening Her podcast. How are you doing, my friend? My name is Talia Joy. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad that our paths have crossed. Everybody pull up a beanbag chair, pull up something comfy. Today we are diving into an incredible topic. I love talking about this. We're talking about becoming your highest self. So if you're new here, this is the space where we blend personal transformation with spirituality. We blend self-growth with healing, with manifestation, learning basically how to master the physical and the spiritual, because you recognize, I know you're an old soul if you're here, you recognize that this is where this expansion truly happens. And maybe you're like me and a lot of my clients where the self-growth was really calling to us even early on, like going to therapy, going to a counselor. Maybe it's mental health, psychology might have really interested you, philosophy. Like we kind of started with this personal evolution piece, and over time, maybe the spiritual picked up, or maybe you've been newly introduced to it, or you've recognized you're going through an awakening. Whatever the case is, whatever blend it is for you, you are absolutely in the right place, and I'm really excited for it because I love to help make this stuff tangible, but also deeply spiritual. So I want it to be, though, that becoming your highest self isn't just an inspiring quote or some lofty idea, it's your lived reality. And that's why we blend the spiritual alignment with the healing, with the tangible tools, so that you can really move forward. And that's exactly what we're diving into today, which I'm so excited about. And we hear this phrase all the time, right? Becoming our highest self, or imagine what your highest self is like. But I want to talk about today what that actually means, and more importantly, understanding how you can start to live it now. I'm going to give at the end 5 really tangible, I'm going to call them just like nuggets of advice when becoming our highest self, to do with the physical, the spiritual practices, environment, stuff like that can really help you, because I've really been thinking a lot about it lately. And when I look back on my goals, of course, I wanted things like to write my book, or to have the business, or to make more money, or to be in a certain idea of health. But what was really behind that was almost like the freedom of being my true self, being who I truly am. And it felt like money and health and travel, like that's what that gives me, is me living my highest timeline, which is absolutely what it gives me. And for you, your goals. But that's what we're here to talk about today, is there's a whole other aspect beyond the tangible goals. And that's living as the person you're meant to become, who you truly are, soul aligned, highest self, which is, again, exactly what we're diving into. This is the version of you that's magnetic, that's confident, that's aligned, that is in love with her life, that loves being who you truly are, if that makes sense. The version of you that feels truly like yourself. And ironically, that ends up being the formula for manifestation and quantum manifestation, which means giant leaps forward in a short amount of time. Because when you start to live as that highest self, you energetically match something much different than what you were living before, and life will immediately start mirroring it back. So I'm not going to give too much of a spoiler, because that's exactly what we're getting into. We're just in the intro right now, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. But if you are resonating with this, you're going to really enjoy today's episode, where we blend that spiritual piece with the tangible piece, and I'm so excited. And if you are that type of person that's like, yes, I highly recommend joining On the Path. This is my private membership space where we really dive into not just the topics, but the how do I do it and what do I do. And April is all quantum manifestation. So this is all about embodying your highest self, making it tangible. We've got practices, meditations, deep dives. It's the actual how. So if you're interested in that, I will put the link below to On the Path, the private space. Okay, let's just dive into today's episode. I really want to. I hope you're ready. Take a sip of water, take a sip of your coffee, your matcha, whatever you're sipping, and let's dive into this beautiful transmission we've got today. Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Awakening Her podcast. I am so grateful that you've been led here, and I'm so excited for you that you're answering the call to manifest more magic in your life. My name is Talia Joy, and I am committed to showing you exactly how to manifest more excitement, ease, success, abundance, confidence, love, and anything else you've been craving. So, if you're ready to go on a magical journey of spiritual and self-growth to manifest the life you're meant for, we are now besties. Let's dive in. All right, let's just launch into, first and foremost, what is your highest self? And if you're new here, I just want to give a little heads up. I am an intuitive channel, as I believe all of us are, and I channel my team of light. So if I'm saying my team shows it to me like this, or how I'm seeing it is that type of thing, that's because it's from them. And when I go into soul stuff, past life stuff, highest self stuff, I really like to consult them, because to me, that's like the straight goods. So most of this information comes from my general understanding of the highest self, and most of that is because of my team and because of what I've received and heard and accessed through all the years, plus what they tell me as I literally record. So if you hear that, that's what I'm talking about. So first and foremost, your highest self is not a future version. It's not the best self either. We'll do some differentiating with those in a second, but it's not the future you. You don't have to chase it. You don't even have to do anything. I know it's going to sound contradictory, but don't just trust me. You don't even have to do anything. It's the real you. It's the truest you. It's the you fully expressed. You being who you truly are. Soul aligned. Connected to life force energy, to divine source, to truth, to love. And this version of you is already inside you right now, more or less waiting to be expressed, more than anything you actually have to find or have to dig at. Just because we go deep doesn't actually mean it's far away or it's hard. It's just a deeper part of you, and they're wanting to be expressed. So if you think of the highest self as the true self, and you start in your day-to-day life, as I'm sure you've been doing, asking yourself, like, what do I truly want? And what do I truly like? And how do I want to spend my time? And what do I want for myself in this lifetime? And what do I need to eat today? And, what kind of exercise does my body want to do? When you ask deeper questions, you're really tuning into your highest self. It's the part of you that remains when we strip away the human levels of like identity and insecurity and what you can and can't do and what you should do and what your parents want for you and what society says you are and the pressures and the trauma. And all of that is an important part of being human, which we're both, right? We're soul and we're human. That stuff is an important part of your evolution, your personal transformation. So it's not bad. It's actually incredibly on purpose to have to take part in being human in the game that we chose for some reason to come down and play, right? When we strip away the can and the can'ts and the limitations, we get to access our highest self. I like to ask myself questions like, if money or responsibility or judgment or obligation or whatever weren't an issue, if time wasn't an issue, if I didn't have pressure to do this, like what would I really want to do? What type of food would I eat? Where would I spend my money? Where would I travel to? How would I spend my day? How would I spend my time? It's that deeper, if nothing was burdening me kind of thought. If nothing burdened me, if there wasn't any shoulds, who would I be? And that is how we start to unpeel the layers and access your higher self. So I want to talk about for a second that human part. And in some ways, I don't know if you'll relate. If you're a starseed, you definitely will. But being a human is like heavy and hard. And, again, there is so much. And we have nervous systems and we have a brain and emotions and finances and pressure and friends and drama. And it is tough to be human. And if you feel me, I feel you and I see you. It is not easy. Sometimes just I have an appointment Tuesday at 11. I feel suffocated because Tuesday at 11, I have to be someone. What if I don't feel like it? And just being a human, right? We got to pay taxes. We got to go to the dentist. It's all this blah, again, all this stuff. But our brain is the part that really makes us human. Of course, our body and all that. But I want to talk about the brain for a second and how it loves rules, what's right, what's wrong, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, how we are perceived to others, what others think of us, all this. And that conditioning and that noise pulls us away from our center. And the contrast I'm talking about, the duality, it's part of the game. The physical is part of the game, but it's not the whole truth. It's not the fullness of who you truly are. Who you truly are is human and also spirit and also soul. And you have, past experiences and past lives, and perhaps your soul even came from somewhere else. As a soul, you have had experiences, you've been through stuff. And then as a human, you have experiences and you've been through stuff. And we have these different layers. So the fullness of who we truly are is all of that. And we cannot ignore or discount that soul piece. So often we feel disconnected from our center and from our spirit because we are almost solely living as human, or all of our attention basically is going toward that human part. And then we start to feel disconnected from who we truly are. And the crazy part about this that I really want to talk about is how when we start to be in tune with that deeper part of us, when we start to learn how to embody that, how to make choices from our truth, to listen to our intuition, but most importantly, act in accordance with that higher self, the more we even just practice that, do it sometimes, do it more often, this is the space where we manifest from. So I kind of see it like there are two ways to manifest. One is to force things to change externally because there are physical laws and we can visualize things and affirm things. And I'm a huge fan of all of that. And there's almost the way to go and create $1,000. And we put in this process. I mean, if you're going to do it, might as well go for $1 million, but you know what I mean? To have this one goal and to manifest this one goal. Or we take a little bit of the more complex old soul path and we learn how to become who we truly are. We learn to become our highest self. And that path is where we become magnetic because we become that vibration internally and then it radiates out and then we start to manifest with ease. Or I used to call it spot manifesting, or we try to spot manifest. Have you ever tried to just get a 6-pack, but without working anything else? It won't work. We can't just try to force one area of our life. Sure, there definitely are times when someone can, write down $5,000 on a thing and bury it into the earth and under the full moon and put a lot of intention and manifest that money. That absolutely happens. And there's nothing wrong with it. However, when you're drawn to self-growth as well, when you're drawn to personal development as well, and soul ascension, it's because your path here is to learn how to live as your higher self, in your higher truth, and then become an effortless match for what you want. Because when you're more in touch with your truth, you're more brave in the way of you know what, I'm just going to write the book because it's in my highest truth. My intuition whispers, or I'm going to treat my body well, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to deeply connect with people. It'll lead you to all the right places. But instead of trying to force each individual thing, each individual piece, you become who you truly are. And the bonus byproduct is effortlessly, or naturally, I should say, manifesting more money, higher health. You don't have to choose spiritual awakening or manifestation, or you don't have to choose like self-growth or to practice manifestation magic. It happens together. It happens as you continue on this path of becoming your higher self. And when you learn, again, to make decisions from that place, to be in touch with your truth with a capital T, your center, the self, the true self, when you're in touch with that, when you're learning to embody that, like I said, you make different decisions and all that, but your energy shifts. And that is a quantum leap. That actually brings you back into quantum manifestation. So I hope that this makes sense. Sometimes I riff and I'm like, does this make sense to other humans? I hope so. And I know that if anyone's going to get me, it's you guys for sure. So it's like we can either learn to do manifestation and manifest the client, manifest the one thing, or we go out on an awakening journey, a self-growth journey, a healing journey, and we learn how to become who we truly are. And from that place, we radiate confidence, we radiate clarity, we have been healing, we feel more ourselves. We feel less stressed, less ill, more magnetic, more soul aligned. And from that place, we quantum manifest. And if you are on the path, you know, in this breaking down of quantum manifestation, it's not even like you have to be perfect. It's choosing to practice it, choosing to put your energy into that type of work rather than external force, or rather than just 75 affirmations a day and then being frustrated why it's not working, or like I did this meditation, why isn't this working? And this path isn't easy, right? It does involve the self-growth, the self-awareness, the healing. But the good news is you've already been doing that. You've already been doing that for a while. So when we turn our focus more into embodiment, more into becoming our higher self, that is where very quickly you do start to attract more abundance. You do start to attract more clarity because you're in touch with the truth of who you are. So I want to touch on for a second, as an old soul and as someone here for deep transformation, your soul, as I mentioned in the beginning, is more like waiting to be expressed. And we start to tune into it through our intuition, through asking ourselves those questions like, what does my true self want to say, or my higher self, or my soul? This is where we start to access that. So why I'm saying this is like your soul is waiting to be more and more realized, and how we realize it is through the higher self. So when you imagine your higher self, that is literally your soul manifested into a form of a human. Okay, I'm really sorry if this is not making sense, but it's hard for us to tangibly understand what our soul is, right? Because in some ways, like, it's kind of formless. What is our soul, right? So as a human, when we imagine our highest self, that is like our human self infused with soul, infused with truth, infused with that fullest expression of who we are. So the highest self is really where soul meets human. And we can master this lifetime, because right now we are human. Right now we're having a temporary human experience, and at one point we will be recycled back into the earth and go back into soul or back into formless for a bit. But right now we're human. So it's about blending the two. And that's why your higher self is so important, because that is like the embodiment of what it means to master the human and the spiritual experience. So again, I hope this makes sense. And from that place, manifestation becomes easy. You make different decisions. You show up differently. You feel different about yourself and your self-worth and what you're capable of. And that is true magnetic manifestation. So the last thing I want to say before I get into the tangible, down to the ground tips, because I know we went far and wide there for a minute, but the other thing I wanted to say is that your highest self isn't perfect, and we have to take them off of the pedestal. Our highest self isn't perfect. They're more aligned with our soul. So in some ways, if the higher self, if you're being your higher self, and there's a day where you need to break free of your exercise plan because you're exhausted, your higher self is going to meet you with grace and compassion and say, yeah, you should rest. So imagine your higher self in their day, and they've been sticking to this exercise thing, right? Because our higher self is always like exercising and meditating and doing all the things. They're successful, right? And then their body, they get sick, they get a cold, or their body is exhausted. The higher self listens to the body with grace and compassion. So the higher self isn't perfect. It's not about sticking to the plan. It's not about Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's about meeting yourself with grace, with truth, with compassion. Your higher self is filled up with self-love. Because if you relate to, God or Christianity or anything like that, they say God is love. If you don't relate to that, that is totally fine. But to me, universal life force frequency is the same frequency as unconditional, pure love. So when we meet ourselves with love, we meet ourselves with spirit. So our higher self it's not about perfection. It's about being aligned with love, being aligned with eternal truth. So as you venture out on your path, being your higher self, just remember that it's not about perfection. It's about being true to who you are. And sometimes the thing that you need the most is grace and compassion. To say, oh, you know what? This didn't go as planned and I love myself. Or today I feel low and I'm going to give myself the gift of rest with no guilt. Or I'm going to listen to my truth. And sometimes your truth might be about boundaries and other people might not like it and you're going to have to deal with that. And then your higher self will swoop in and go, you know what? No matter what they think of you, I love you. I'm here for you. You are worthy. Good job setting a boundary. They may not like it, but it came from truth. This type of thing. It's not about perfect. It's not your higher self is floating on a cloud, never having any contrast, never having anything go wrong. Stuff happens. And in this human experience, unfortunately, we do experience death and birth and, jobs end and relationships end and new ones start. And it's this constant up and down. So being your highest self is not only not about perfection, but that version of you is living your very real life with sometimes being overstimulated, with needing to choose what to eat, with family dynamics, with finances. So you can't separate them too much and just think it's soul, or else you end up like I was a few years ago and even, something I'm ongoingly working with. But it's hard to be human. And when I relate too much as a soul, it's kind of a bummer being human and being on top of things and having obligations and finances. But when I think of the higher self, that's where that innate beauty and divine energy meets the very real human. So my higher self is going out on walks. She's remembering to, tune into her nervous system and regulate her nervous system. She's being in that love, as I say. She's eating with flexibility, but also health at the forefront because she honors herself, but she's flexible. She still enjoys her chocolate. Yes, she does. She has meaningful connection. She speaks her truth even when sometimes it's tough. Those are things my very real higher self very really does. Okay, that doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. It's blending the soul with the human. So I'm going to go into my no-fluff advice for living in this physical 3D reality as your higher self. And then again, if you want so much more, the step-by-step, join us in On the Path. It's the best place ever. I love it. So, okay, the 5 tips I want to go into. Number 1, mind your space. And this is particularly important if you're an empath or you feel sensitive. To curate your environment is everything. Start to shift up your environment to reflect the highest self. And this takes time. We can't always just go, buy a whole bunch of new stuff or move all of a sudden or clear out all the old friends. You know what I mean? But we can't, it's not an overhaul overnight. But I want you to really start to think of your environment, who you spend time with, what your physical space looks and feels like, your car, your closet, your office space, the energy, the vibe. Do you need more plants? Do you need to declutter? Do your clothes even feel like you? Does your stuff even feel like you? How is your desk reflecting your mindset? Who are the people that are continually or consistently entering your vibe, entering your bubble? Really looking at your space. And for me, my space is so important, even to the point where my husband and I, we have only warm lighting in our house. We actually went back to old school bulbs. Don't come at me. To have that real light. We get really dim light in the evening, blue screen filters, all the things, because my space is everything. I'm also obsessed with plants and stuff. So I have like life in every room. And definitely with 3 kids, my house could be, I'm sure, less cluttered and a few less dust balls and Lego pieces on the floor. But to me, it's not about that. It's about living comfortably, feeling like I walk in the door and it's like my comfy pants are on, that feeling of just wearing a huge hoodie and comfying up with a blanket. And so my space that me and my husband curate and my kids live in and everything is so important. And then I also have my sacred spaces where I meditate, where I move my body, where I work out, where I pray, where I read. I have these other little, even if they're small, some spaces are bigger than others. You might be living in an apartment, or you might be on the go. You might be, van lifing it, or maybe you have a huge house. Whatever you can do is perfect. But curating little spaces that feel sacred, that feel energetic, bringing in some natural elements, like I said, plants or crystals, things that are made of wood, glass, metal, these earthy elements, and just minding your space, minding who you let into your space, even if it's your emotional space, even if you're talking on the phone and it's not physical, curate your environment to reflect your higher self, because especially, as I said, if you're an empath, you will absorb your environment. So I'm an empath and a human design reflector, which literally almost means I have no self bubble, and myself can be lost very quickly in my environment, the people I'm around, all of that. And so I've had to learn this one the hard way, but even every day before work, I tidy things up. So if I have like a bunch of notebooks and a coffee cup from yesterday, before I even start in my space, I don't deep clean Martha Stewart everything, but I clear away. I make sure my space is like, feels good, basically. So my first piece of no-fluff advice for you is to intentionally curate your space to reflect your higher self. And the space that came up as I'm talking about this, if it's like your closet, your car, your office space, the garage, whatever, the place that came up, start there and really work on bringing everything together to feel harmonious, to feel good to you. The next piece of advice I want to say is to stop entertaining old energy. So what you tolerate, you stay stuck in. And old energy can be many different things. But there are times where I'm like, I'm just not going to engage in that. And it could be a thought in my mind. And I work through this with clients a lot because it's so easy for us to fall into old energy, old identity. But when you're moving forward, I want you to continually channel your higher self and not entertain that older energy. Just noticing when you're coming from low self-worth or chaotic energy, and just take one thing and go like, I am no longer going to tolerate that because that feels like it's old. It doesn't resonate. It's bringing me down. Okay, number 3 is to speak her words now. We have a weekly practice on the path that was just dropped that is all about these affirmations in a very powerful, specific way. And what I'll say here is thinking about how this version of you talks to herself, the types of things they say about their goals, about their reality, and start anchoring that in now. Your language truly does anchor in and show what you truly believe. So even when you're talking to other people, it doesn't mean you have to be like, everything's great, especially, we need our besties and we need time to vent, but just be careful of what you say. Be careful of saying, this is never going to work, or it's never going to change, or I'm going to be alone. Like these definitive statements. And instead even saying like right now, it's really challenging, or right now I'm experiencing a lack of time, or right now I feel exhausted. These things are fine. It's when we say this is never going to happen. I'm never going to do it. I'm not worth that, or I'm never going to find someone that this and that, right? Just being really careful and softening the language. So coming back to remembering that your higher self isn't perfect. They go through stuff too. They can experience a breakup. They could experience an unexpected job shift or something. How would they speak about it? That's what we want to look at. So number 3 is about speaking their words now, being really aware of language. Okay, number 4 is making higher decisions about your future from the level of your higher self. So thinking about, what do I truly want? What does my higher self want for me in the next year, in the next 2 years? What does my soul want for me? And really try to trust that even if it says connection, rest, purpose, healing, it doesn't mean you can't also make money or, get healthier. It's, again, you don't have to choose either or. The higher self will lead you to the manifestation. So when we make higher decisions, even if sometimes it's like pull back from your business, you need to take some time for you. Often we'll go like, but if I do that, how am I going to also, get the book out or transform my health? But we have to trust. We really do need to trust in our highest self, because your highest self isn't going to have you move forward in one direction, but horribly backward in another. We don't have to choose. All we have to choose is our higher self. We don't have to forfeit our goals or making money or being successful to step into the highest self. Does that make sense? So making decisions about your future from that higher place, asking them their advice for you, what they want for you, even what the next step is for you. Okay, and number 5 is so simple, and it ties these all together. I want you to ask yourself with your hand on your heart multiple times a day, what does my higher self say? What does my heart say? What does my truth say? Whatever word you want is completely fine. What does my soul say? Completely fine. But ask yourself over and over and over, what do they want for breakfast? What do they say to do as the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? How do they want you to handle that thing that happened at work? How are they pumping gas? What decisions are they making about dinner? Because sometimes your higher self is going to say, don't eat out, let's make like a beautiful, colorful meal. And sometimes your higher self says, you deserve a taco, right? So we really want to check in. It's not about right or wrong. It's not about that there's only one way to go. It's about what you need right now. So my pieces, again, just quick recap of the no-fluff advice. Number 1 is to mind your space, to intentionally curate your environment to reflect your higher self. Number 2, stop entertaining old energy. And you'll know what I mean. You'll know what you mean with old energy. That can be many things, but what you tolerate, you stay in. I heard recently someone say that if you're not changing it, you're choosing it. So when we don't do anything about that old stuff that's really bringing us down, then we're not going to be able to change. So really get gritty with how you talk to yourself or who you allow again in your space or anything of old energy. Okay, number 3 was to speak their words now, to speak as your higher self, to think about what their language is like, even when we're going through hard things. Number 4 is making decisions, and especially long-term decisions or future decisions from your higher self. Making sure you're asking, what do they want for me in the next year, in the next 10 years, or even in this lifetime, and even in tomorrow? Really asking questions about the future coming from the higher self. And then number 5 is asking multiple times a day, from the way you wake up to what you eat, to what you do on your lunch break, to who you call, to what you talk about, checking in multiple times a day, asking yourself, what does my higher self say here? What do they want for me here? And starting to be led. Instead of figuring it all out, be led by your higher self and really try to trust that that is the path to the highest experience, which means healing and abundance and love and connection and experiences. That higher self is living that life, and that life is meant for you. So I'm so proud of you. I hope that this resonated. I highly recommend joining On the Path, especially if you made it through this episode. You're going to love On the Path. I would love to see you over there. And with that, go out, live as the highest self, be compassionate, live your dreams, and I'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I really hope that it served you. So before you go, I want to share something with you. If you're loving these conversations about self-growth and healing and moving forward, and you're really ready for more tools, more implementation, more integration, more structure, more what do I do? I invite you over to On the Path. This is my only private community, and honestly, it's the place to be if you want to integrate, if you want to deepen your journey, and you find my work helpful. Here's the vibe: bite-sized practices, ongoing support, deep dive episodes, weekly practices, monthly challenges, literally just keeping you on your path, showing up for yourself day by day, week by week, month by month. So this is where you really put it into action, and I've got your back with these assignments, tools, practices, shifts, deep dives, meditations, journal prompts, and literally everything you could need to carve out your unique journey of self-growth, self-healing, and transformation. So I'm not going to go on and on. If you feel called, you feel called. And if you check below, because you made it all the way to the end of this, you'll find a link to join On the Path for the first month for only $11. So after that, it's just $27 a month, and you can go at any time. Okay, my love, I genuinely hope this episode lit you up, and I can't wait to welcome you over to On the Path, and I cannot wait to see you also in the next episode. Thanks so much, and have a great day.